Hey everybody, this is Tori Huckabee. I am also part of the recruitment team with Lena. And so to follow up with her first video on how to take your intake form to start the job requisition process, we thought we wanted to show you how to move your candidates through the different buckets, specifically from recommended to hire to offer, because at that stage it asks for some important information and we just kind of wanted to go over those fields and just why they're so important. So this is the same job rec that Lena showed you guys. So it's a human resources associate. We had 3 applicants, and as you can see, we still have 2 in the interview. So we've reviewed all 3 applicants, and then we put the top candidate in the staff reference check. And if you're not aware, we started a process using a vendor called Crosscheck. So all classified roles will use Crosscheck as their way to get reference checks on their candidates. And so we only ask that you have a reference check on your top candidates. So what I've done is moved myself into the staff reference check box. And what will happen is when you do that, the candidate will get an email from Crosscheck, and they will set up their account. And one of the things that I enjoy about Crosscheck is they will actually go through and self-evaluate themselves. And then after that, they will identify 3 references that will then get a link, and they will then go through and provide a reference for the candidate. And then the search committee chair and the position supervisor will get an email when that's complete with a link to show the full report. So ideally at that point, the report would just reaffirm your decision, and at that point you would be ready to move your candidate forward. And so as you can see right now, my application is in the staff reference check bucket, and so I will go over to take action, and then I'm going to move the candidate, and at this point I'm going to move them from staff reference check to recommended for hire. And you can add comments if you wish. Then you would hit apply updates. And so the one thing to be mindful of is it usually refreshes back to the same screen. So then to go follow my application, you'll hit the recommended for hire at the top, and then you'll go to the candidate's name. And so at this point, we would go through and fill out as much as possible. Some of these fields don't have asterisks, but it's very nice to have as much information as possible on our end. It helps with the rest of the process to make sure the employee is entered in correctly, as well as we try to call and welcome the candidate. So if we can tell them, down here it talks about their building, phone number, what to do the first day of work, things like that. So the more information you provide, just the better those conversations can be. And so the type of candidate, since I am internal, you would choose that. If it's an external employee, you would choose external. And then the budget title, you would just type in the name of the position, associate, so human resources associate. The pay rate, so for the pay rate, this position is a non-exempt, and so you're going to put it in as an hourly. And so what I did was I went to the, this is a great tool, I think Lena even referenced it in her video, so the job description and pay rate ranges. We want to make sure that unless you've had previous conversations that we are staying within this rate. And then if it was an exempt position, then you can look at the annualized salary to get that number. But that's also important because depending on what the pay rate is, if it's hourly or salary, that's also how you input it in here. So we're gonna create $18.15 as the hourly rate, and so you will at this point do hour. You can, when you're discussing things with the candidate, you can let them know what that equates to for an annual salary, but when we're filling this out, just to be consistent, we will do it as if they're non-exempt they would be hourly, and if they're exempt, you would do their salary there. So also, in case you haven't heard, we have a site on our, or a page on our website where you can pick the new hire date. So we are choosing every Monday for new hires to start, and that way they can visit our office and go through their onboarding orientation and turn in any documentation that we need to have on file prior to them starting. So for this instance, I'm going to go ahead and move us to January because we aren't having any start dates in December. We can still hire this month, but all start dates would be in January. So just to have time to get this through the process, I'm going to choose January 22nd, which is a Monday. And then this is a regular eligible, it's not a temp position, so we don't need an anticipated stop date. If you're hiring somebody for a year, then you would choose a stop date just so we're aware of when you anticipate them leaving or their position being ended. And so then now we'll choose their employment percentage. If they're a full-time employee, it would be 100. And then cost centers, I'm just going to, you can always refer back to your requisition or whatever information you've received from the department head to input this here. So this is what was on the initial intake, and then also the position number should match here. So if for some reason that changes, or sometimes we have departments come back and say, we're now going to be able to hire 2 positions, we just need you to provide that position number so that this matches as it goes through the process. And so the next question is asking if there was relocation. And so we would say no here because I'm internal. I'm not going to be moving. And then here is a little blurb about the current relocation policy. So just make sure we're following this. And then if you actually look up the policy, there's protocol if you're going to be, or if you're trying to pursue something outside of this, the steps to go to have that discussion. So next you're going to go to the campus, which I'm going to be in Human Resources, so I'll be here in Oxford. And then let's see if we can, we populate. And so I'm just going to make this up as this for just the purposes of this. But these are one of the things that's kind of nice to be able to tell the candidate or have it on here so that when we're having conversations, we know where you as a department are going to have them, so we know that they have an office, they're going to have an extension, and these things can be updated. So if you don't have their phone set up yet, you could just put the departmental number, and if the room hasn't been assigned yet, things like that we can work through, but just as much information as you already have would be great. And so then my time administrator is going to be human resources. This is not somebody that's going to be a signatory officer, so I'll put no here. This is not a faculty teaching position. This is something you want to make sure that you're asking candidates, and there's actually a line for this on the application process, so just make sure that we are reading this. So since it's me, I can tell you that I'm not a retired employee or receiving PERS. And then this is, have you informed the new hire that an official transcript must be sent? This will be included in the offer letter. So if you haven't, you would just click no. And then if this is not a remote position, which this one would not be, you hit no. And as an hourly employee, they're actually going to be on the flex schedule. A normal schedule would be what we would use for an exempt or salaried employee. And then the work schedule, here you can just put Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Or if there are other, things that have been set aside or decided prior, you would just make that known there. And then this next one I think is great if you can provide anything like this. Like I said, all new hires are reporting to us first thing, so they'll be with our office first thing in the morning, and then the idea from there would be that they would come to your department. And so this has great things like where to park. Sometimes for us, when we're making these calls in human resources, we may not know where, somebody that works in the library parks. So if you can include that, work attire, things like that. So report to department after onboarding orientation, business casual, dress, park in faculty, staff in front lot of JAC. So just something as simple as that would be what you would put in this box. And then these are things that the applicant should have specified prior. And then the other thing to note is, it should be on here, this the other thing to note would be this about this eligibility. We have a great office that works for international employees, and so we just want to make sure if anything like this is noted that we loop in Scholar Services so that they can help ensure that the start date is able to be met and that we have all the proper documentation for that. So at this point, we filled out all of this top part, and so we want to go over here and hit this magical save button that is sometimes missed. And so at this point, you have all of your information, and you can have your conversation with the candidate, and you would go through the terms that y'all have laid out to let them know this is your rate, this is your start date, things of that nature. And if they agree to this, then we would take action and we would move the candidate to offer. And then from here, we would have had those conversations so we know that their verbal offer is accepted. We would hit apply updates. And the great thing about when this happens is your portion as the department is pretty much over. We may reach out for any questions we have, but at this point it would come to whoever is the designated HR recruiter, so either Lena or myself. And from there, we would create the offer approval where it goes through the channels across campus to make sure everyone's on the same page. And then once that's approved, that's when we will move them to ready to hire, and they get their official offer letter from the university. And then we are able to initiate any background checks, and then onboarding takes over to make sure that they're set up in the system correctly for their first day. The last thing I will note is so say I received this and I see that you have one person in your offer and then 2 left in your interview. For us to close out this position, every applicant has to be reviewed and appropriately put into the right bucket. And so before we can close out this job, the 2 that you interviewed, this would be a chance for you to go ahead and reach out to them and let them know that, they, however you want to state it, but they are probably a great candidate, but you are going a different direction. And then at that point, you could move them to the proper disqualifying bucket, and then know that they would also get that generated email from our system letting them know that the position is, they are no longer being considered for the position. So that would happen, and then we would have your applicant ready to hire, and then you would have your start date, and hopefully you would have a successful candidate in a position and fill a need that your department has had and be able to run, more smoothly. So we are here to help. Happy to answer any questions, happy to go through the process individually. We can actually, as you can see right now, I've proxied as Lena in the system since she is the search committee chair to move our process through. So we can also proxy as you so that we can see what you're seeing and kind of be even more hands-on, but we're also open to having face-to-face meetings and anything like that to be helpful. So please feel free to reach out.